Today's episode of Intimate Details with Dr. Tiff is being brought to you by Kinky Green. Kinky Green offers sustainable wellness solutions that alleviate pain and accentuate pleasure. Using hemp-derived CBD, Kinky Green is exactly what your body needs to naturally support sleep, mood, muscle recovery, and even your romantic life. To find out more about their complete line of products, including the best-selling Muscle Melt Pain Balm, visit shopkinkygreen.com. All listeners of this program can receive an extra 15% off when you use offer code Dr. Tiff. Exclusions may apply. Now let's start the show. It's important to note that the information provided here today is not subject to your unique health concerns. Before making any changes, we ask that you consult with your personal physician to determine a course of treatment that is specific to your individual needs and treatment goals. All right. You know my next guest, Dr. Jennifer Ashton, is the Chief Health and Medical Correspondent for ABC News. She is the best-selling author of 6 books, including The Body Scoop for Girls. Remember that one? That one's an oldie but a goodie. Your Body Beautiful and the Self-Care Solution. You can catch her each and every afternoon on GMA3 on ABC. But today, I'm just thrilled to have my friend here with me, Dr. Jen. Welcome to Intimate Details with Dr. Jen.
Thank you much.
Can you even imagine?
No, I can't.
That we're here.
I can't imagine.
Bananas to me. Bananas. And I'm so thankful to have you.
I know, first of all, because I'm always, your followers on your Instagram must think I am a crazy woman because I am that person.
I mean, as advertised, you are.
I am the person who writes down on, I would say 1 out of every 5 of your posts, you are so beautiful. I love you. And people don't know that we actually do love each other.
Exactly.
that we
have
are
a whole lesbian relationship going on.
Yeah, we are sisters from another mister for 12 years going on now.
Yeah, I know. I was getting ready to say over a decade is so crazy. No, and I love you down. Thinking about like just texting you. I'll just be, I'll wake up early, see you on GMA, and I'm like, your makeup looks really good today. Let me just text her and let her know. Because these are the things, right? We need to know. We need the affirmation that we're doing okay, that things are aging well, and we're holding it up. We need to know that.
Yeah.
And we need our girlfriends to tell us every now and then.
I'm just excited to be on your show.
This is wild to me. I was trying to figure out. So I was driving the other day and I was thinking, I know we've been on shows together, and I believe you did interview me on The Doctors, if I'm not mistaken. I believe you were on that segment. But this is my first time ever like interviewing you, and this is so weird for me.
I love it. But it doesn't feel like work.
I know, because I feel like, you know what? I have tasks, right? I have paper here that I'm trying to make sure I ask all the questions that I want to ask. But I know this is going to go off tangent as we do. There are things we have to catch up on. There are things that, you and I both need to know. So, I mean, I would say to our audience today, just sit back, grab yourself a little drink and a nosh. We're going to just kick it, answer the questions, talk listen, and all of that.
When friends who also happen to be a licensed sex therapist and a board certified gynecologist get together, I mean, I think that's going to be a good time.
Yeah, a very good time. Anything can happen and everything will be discussed.
Correct.
Everything will be discussed. Now, do you remember, because I just can't believe you're here. It has been everything to try and get you here, but I think you have come at the absolute right time. Do you hear that dinging? What is that? Is that me?
Oh,
is that you?
Hold on. That might be on my side.
What did you do?
That might be my notifications, but hold on. Well, that also presumes that I know how to shut that sucker off.
Okay. Are you on a Mac?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Go to F6.
What?
F6. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. And now she's throttling.
F6.
Yes. Click that. And you should have seen like a do not disturb come up.
Oh, okay.
Look at you. Look at you moving into 2024.
Thank you. I didn't even have to call my son Alex for that one.
Now, when we get ready to end, I want you to take that off. Otherwise,
Okay.
I cannot be responsible for what happens after we close out the program.
Gotcha. Will
Okay.
do.
All right. So do you remember? Do you remember when we first met?
Yeah, of course. I
Okay.
sure do.
Okay.
It was, I want to say it was 2011.
For sure.
We had just been cast, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, as co-hosts on the ABC daytime show, The
Yes.
Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember that, there were 5 of us, or maybe 4 of us initially at that point. And I think you and I looked at each other like, we're about to get on a roller coaster. We don't know
We
what
don't
this
know if this
ride
is
is
good
going
or
to
bad.
feel like. We don't know if we're going to
Yeah.
survive it, but nice to meet
Yeah.
you. And I think we're going to get through it together.
So my memory, same, sis, same. But my memory, we were doing, I think, press photos. I think is the first day that we might have met. That's definitely my first day spending time with you. Dara was doing your hair and makeup. Because I was from Atlanta, I didn't have a hair and makeup there, so they brought someone in for me. And I remember Dara leaning over and she's like, "They're not gonna let you wear your hair like that." It's like, of course, my hair is natural and it's, it was a fro-ish situation. And I'm like, yes, they are. She's like, I'm just telling you, girl, they probably not gonna let you wear your hair like that because, it's TV and da 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 da. So I remember like just freaking out, calling the our EP over and Kim Miller, calling Kim over and just being like, you hired me like this. And I plan on wearing my hair like this.
You know what?
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, I remember another hair incident that you
Oh
and I
God, there's
had
so many.
where we went, because we were doing the show in New York, but we
Mm-hmm.
were
In
doing
LA.
something in LA.
Yeah.
And you and I were both now maybe a month in, and we knew that it was a runaway train, not a roller coaster, but a runaway train. And you and I showed up for some shoot, and we go into hair and makeup. Do you remember this? And the hairstylist, you looked at the
Mm.
hairstylist, who I think she might have been Asian or white. I don't remember what she
This
was,
was no, yes.
but you said to the hairstylist, have you ever done black hair?
Mm-hmm.
And did they tell you that you
Mm-hmm.
would be doing a black
Mm-hmm.
woman's hair?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, they told me that I'd be doing ethnic hair. And you were like, what?
Wait 1 second. I said, wait 1 second. And then, no, this is the same one. This wasn't in LA. This was in New York. Because I stopped her and I said, you know what, sweetie, hold on. Because she was a hair and makeup person. Like they didn't hire a separate
I know.
person. And so I went and I said, Kim, she can do my makeup, but she can, and I have a picture of this woman too. She can do my makeup, but she cannot touch my hair. I said,
You were like,
absolutely not.
ethnic. What is that? Asian,
I don't know what it is.
Hispanic? No. This
But let me
is,
tell you, and here's what she did that made me say, hold on 1 second, sweetie.
I remember.
She took a pencil.
Yeah, I remember.
She took a pencil. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, okay? Turn on your computers right now. If you are in your car driving, stop the car and pull over. This video will be on Spotify and it will be on YouTube. She took a pencil, a number 2 to be exact, okay? She took my hair.
I remember.
Wrapped it around the pencil.
Yeah.
Then took a flat iron to sear it so that it would be coily. I said, hold on 1 minute. Hold on 1 minute, ma'am. Hold on. I need to go do something right quick. I said, I will do my hair myself. I will look like whatever. I don't care. And that picture, I hated those pictures. I didn't like my hair in those pictures. It was good enough. It was better than it would have looked had I let her finish, because all of my hair would have been on the floor. I said, this lady cannot touch my hair. So I'm so glad we've gotten so off topic.
And now, but listen, come full circle. And this is why I love our friendship and sisterhood, among other reasons, is that we intersect as friends, as moms, as wives, as professionals, as friends, all of the above, as a white woman and a black woman.
Yeah.
Fast forward now 10 years to when I had all that hair damage and I started wearing
She's come
wigs.
over to the other
And
side.
right, do you remember when I
Yes.
called you and I was like,
Yeah.
Tiffany, I got a wig. It's a full wig with a lace cap and I'm wearing a ponytail and I'm obsessed with this now. Now I see what, and you go, hold on. Now you see, Black women have been doing this for 30 years. I go, well, I'm a little slow to the party, but now I am there.
And
I
now
will
you
never
got it.
go back.
Oh my gosh, the damage, the damage. And I mean, it's a gift and a curse. It is so glamorous to have somebody, to really be lucky enough to have great people doing your hair and your makeup, so that that's something that you don't have to worry about, especially when you're going on camera. But honey, the torture that it does to every single follicle, you can't do that. And you've been on TV now with, can I say 25 years? How long?
No, 17 years.
17?
Yeah.
I feel like it's 30.
Yeah, me too.
17. Yeah.
But
No.
I learned from all of the Black women that I work with how to protect my hair. And the thing that I have found so interesting is that Black women are so upfront about it, proud of it, like transparent.
Yeah.
White women are, I tell everyone, I tell the sound guys when they're like, I'm like, watch the hair. And I go, by the way, that's not my hair. And everyone's like shocked that I say, no, this is a wig. Well, this is not a
Man,
wig, but
listen.
on TV. And I'm
Listen.
like, what is the secret? I look at it no differently than my earrings. Anyway,
Yeah.
and so you and I had a full circle moment
Oh,
with that.
honey. And yes, and the fact that, you've always been someone to like, just, you know what? She is who she is. She's a Black girl and she needs, you know what? She needs her things. I'm going to let her do her. I will be there to back her up if she needs it. I will advocate on her behalf if I need to, but I know she's got it, but I'm still here with her. We've always just had such a great relationship, and I've so appreciated that over the years, and loved you and loved watching all of the wonderful things that you've been able to do.
Thanks.
And
Same.
yeah,
Same.
life experiences, all of that stuff. So it is just my joy, honor, and pleasure to have you here today. I'm just so ecstatic. I do have one more question before we get to the magazine. And this is another do you remember? Do you know, this is a do you know, not do you remember, but do you know what my favorite Dr. Jen quote is?
Oh God.
It might embarrass you.
No.
Here it is. My feet don't go in cheap shoes.
That is true. That is true. Cheap bag? Sure. Cheap clothes? Yes. Cheap shoes? Hell no. My feet just are not happy in cheap shoes. They're not.
I love it.
That's
I love that for you.
Mhm.
I love it. I love it. No, that's always been my favorite. Like, out of all the things we've ever talked about, that is the one thing. And that was an early on quote, but I was like, oh, she's my people.
I remember. I also have big feet, so they can't go into cheap
Yeah, they can't go on just anything.
No.
But yes, we have a lot of stuff to celebrate here, most notably the release of the second issue of your magazine. Can you hold that up for me? Because you had the honor of having one in your hand. I don't have one, not because I don't love Dr. Jen, not because I haven't looked for it. I have, but I'd love to say that it's sold out, but I think it's scurrying its way across the country and just hasn't made it to the Publix in Atlanta, Georgia yet.
Let me tell you,
So,
it is
yes.
out. Here's the thing.
Yes.
Magazines are not like, I don't know, other things, I guess. Each newsstand, each store gets to decide what magazines they buy, and not every store buys every magazine. So if you see In Touch or Us Weekly, that's the same publisher as my magazine. So this should be there. But, and here's the good news, your listeners, your viewers can go to magazineshop.us
Yes.
and buy the magazine for the same price that it is available on the stands, and it will always be there. So,
Absolutely.
and my first issue is there as well. But the best part about this issue is
It's right
right
there.
here. See this? Sex
Sex
after
after
50.
50.
Dr. Tiffany Davis Henry is the core expert for that article.
It was
So
so fun to
thank you
do.
for contributing to that,
Of
honey.
course, of course. Girl, you already know. Like anything you ask me to do, I'm there. I'm
Ditto.
there. I'm
Ditto.
there. You know that. No, it was so fun to do. And yes, we will put the information that you just gave about how they can access the magazine, as well as the books and everything that we talk about
Awesome.
today. We'll put it in the show notes so that people can just click. They don't even have to think about it. Just go to the
Awesome.
show notes and click,
Thank
and you'll
you.
be able to get that magazine delivered to your door pronto. But no, it was such an honor to contribute to this magazine because we got to answer so many of your readers' questions about sex after 50, the changes to anticipate, sexual pain, lubrication. We got to talk about desire discrepancy, how long an orgasm should take or last or
Mm-hmm.
take weight gain during menopause, all of that. And I know that that's something that you're super familiar with and talk about all the time with your patients, but it was really it was interesting what really was front of mind and of concern to women at this particular stage in their life. And it was just a blessing to me to be able to offer some insight, you know?
Well, thank you. And I was honored that you participated. And I'll tell you what was really fun for me, Tiff, with this
Mhm.
magazine, this issue and the first
Mhm.
issue and the next issue that we're already working on is that, for people who I hope your viewers and listeners watch or you
Mhm.
watch Good Morning America and GMA3, but in news television, it's not up to me what we talk about every day. And it's not,
Right.
and yes, it's up to the producers, but we are responding to a story that's in the national headlines. So I call that reactive
Sure.
television or coverage, medical coverage. And this magazine is like your podcast, proactive. No one is
Yeah.
telling you what questions to ask me. No one is telling
Right.
us what to discuss. We're bringing our expertise and, our day-to-day kind of knowledge and experience to the content and not vice versa. So
Mhm.
that's something that I've really loved with the magazine is that I know what's important to women because of being an OBGYN
Mhm.
and a nutritionist and a board certified obesity medicine doctor. And that's what I want to talk about. I don't get
Right.
to make those decisions for Good Morning
Right.
America and GMA3, but I do get to make those decisions for the magazine. So
Yeah.
it to me was a no brainer to have you do, a deep dive on sex after 50. And
Yeah.
you will be back, I hope, for more.
I've already been told I'm coming back, so fine.
You
Yes.
are. You are.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think that intention that you put into the magazine is very much is well received and is definitely noted. And the care concern when you get the magazine, it is not your typical magazine where you read it once, you throw it away when the next issue comes. This is more of a coffee table journal, a reference point. It is something where I can pick it up for what I need it for in this moment, and even if I don't need it, because guess what, Mama's not 50. I'm not 50. I have the knowledge, I have the expertise to tell you about it, right? But let's say in a year I am 50. I promise you, a year or two or three, whatever, that information is going to hold up. And that is across the board from issue to issue with this magazine. The information is top tier by top tier professionals. It will hold the test of time, stand the test of time, and you will be able to pick it up no matter what, anytime, any generation. We will
Oh,
all be
thank
able to get
you.
something from this magazine going
Thank you.
forward. So I just thank you for putting it out there. It's great
Thank
information to
you. I've
have.
had a lot of fun doing it. And listen, I have
Nice.
breaking news about the magazine.
Da,
It
da,
was
da.
named it was named by the leading magazine trade kind of blogger article,
Mm-hmm.
one of the top 10 magazine launches of 2023.
Shut your mouth. I mean, girlfriend.
Anyway, I'm
You
super
giggle.
excited,
You
but
giggled.
most important, I'm just the response, I have women post on my Instagram that they got the first
Mm-hmm.
one and they absolutely loved it. And that's,
Yeah.
that's why I became a doctor. That's why I do what I do on television, is just to have this
Yeah.
conversation with women about important medical and health information. And just, it's just so rewarding for me to hear that people are enjoying.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, because I could go on about this magazine all day. The thing is, it's not filled with a whole bunch of fluff. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I know that you have to pay advertisers, and I know that magazines have to, like, they have to make money on the back end as well, because the magazine industry is very different than maybe it was five,
Yeah.
10 years ago. But I feel that there is so much substance in the magazine that is so worth it. It's
Thank you,
so worth
honey.
it.
Thank
It's so
you.
worth it. I want to see it in every doctor's office, to be honest.
Mm.
I feel I do. I want to see it in every doctor's office. The problem is that magazine is probably going to walk out of the doctor's office with some.
Well, from your lips to God's ears.
I know. You guys are going to have to check it out from the front desk and bring it back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, you are welcome. You're most welcome. Now, in this season, and this is our second season of Intimate Details with Dr. Tiff, we're really focusing our content and our conversations around two key pillars, and those are relationship enhancement and intentional self-care. And so while I have been wanting to have you on for so long, I really wanted to be intentional about our time and making sure that I have you on at the right time, to ask the right questions. And this seemed like the best time. It didn't work out to have you on season one. Like, I think there were schedule conflicts and,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
over the place. But this is perfect time. One, because the magazine just came out and we can talk about that. And it leads us so beautifully into our conversation today. I'm thinking back a few months back. You and I did a segment with Allie Wentworth on GMA3, and that was on menopause. You said something. I'm always hanging on your every word. You said something that day that had me in a chokehold from the time you said it until this very moment. And I know you don't know what it was, because you talk and you talk and you talk, and these things just flow out of your mouth, and you don't know what you're doing. You're just saying the facts. You're just letting the people know what you
Right.
know, right? So we're going to do a deep dive into menopause. And so, and I'm going to get back to the question. I promise you I will. Let's talk about menopause, but also the real nuts and bolts. Everything I want to know is really about perimenopause.
Mm.
Perimenopause. That's where I want to get us to. But menopause, what exactly is menopause? And then we'll dial it back to perimenopause.
So menopause is a one-line, super short medical definition,
Mm-hmm.
which is 12 months without a menstrual period. 12 months, no bleeding. That is the definition of
Okay.
menopause.
Fantastic.
Now, menopause, I am fascinated by the discussion, the topic, the surge in popularity and attention of menopause and perimenopause, because, and I know that this is probably what you've been thinking too, as a doctor and a science person, I'm all into the physiology and the
Mm-hmm.
endocrinology and all the ologies about menopause. But I'm also interested in the sociology behind this stage in a woman's life. And this is why I think you are the perfect person to bring this conversation to a deep dive level. Because as far as women have come in a lot of ways, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We still have a hell of a long way to go. And a lot of that is in our control, but a lot of it is not in our control. And
Mm-hmm.
what's sadly not in our control, but I'm going to try to give this situation the benefit of the doubt, is that menopause and perimenopause have not gotten their appropriate degree of attention in the past, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
because society, as well as the medical community,
Mm-hmm.
views women at that stage in their lives as not sexy, not useful, over the hill, past their prime, whatever kind of negative descriptive you want to use, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this time in a woman's life just needs a really good PR campaign.
Yeah.
And you and I are going to give it to them.
We're gonna
Be-
give it like,
Because
oh
I
my God.
think that, 100 years ago, women didn't live to the age of 50 or 51.
Right.
So there
Right.
was no menopause. And
Right.
perimenopause, which typically can start 10 or more years before official menopause, also, what's going on when a woman is 40 or 37? She's busy. A lot of
Yeah.
times raising kids, a lot of times working one or two jobs, like getting
Mm-hmm.
her career and her finances and her family. And so any of the symptoms that she may start to have, which we'll get into, she's probably too busy to really give it much attention, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I
As
think
we
that
do as women,
that's
right?
right.
We kind of sweep it all and like it's just something we have to do. We're just gonna muscle through, get it
Yeah.
done,
And
and
now
yeah.
I think luckily that's all changing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a stage in a woman's life where, I'll drop a really, I think, encouraging medical statistic on you and your viewers and listeners, which is that if a woman gets to age 65 without a diagnosis of heart disease or cancer, her life expectancy could be 88 or 89 years of age.
Wow.
And a baby girl born today can be
Wow.
expected to live to 100.
Well,
So, you think about it, a woman
yeah.
at 40 or 50, she's maybe at the halfway point, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now that we have the time, the experience, the money, the knowledge, the social clout to bring attention to this stage in a woman's life, the gloves are coming off, and this rocket ship is about to explode, and I'm here
Yeah.
for it. I think it's
I'm here
great.
for it too. The conversation for me is super important. This perimenopausal is kind of where I am. Full self-disclosure. But this is a safe space. We can talk
Yeah.
about this, right? We can talk about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's where I am. But I think that we have had a history of using the term menopause and perimenopause kind of interchangeably to where a lot of people didn't know. They thought they were in menopause when they were really perimenopausal. And that menopause is that endpoint, like you said, of after not having a period for 12 months, then that's when you are officially in menopause.
Hmm.
Perimenopausal is that's that period that's before, and many women are experiencing a whole lot of symptoms that they don't even associate. And this just goes back to your point, don't even associate having anything to do with their hormones,
Right.
anything to do with menopause or perimenopause. They just think I'm just getting old, or this is how life is, or I'm just a mess, or whatever, but not understanding, oh, girl, there's a name for this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something. I lived it and learned it myself as a board
Mhm.
certified OBGYN. And it's only now, because I'm 54, that I'm on the other side of it, that
Yeah.
I say to myself, oh my God,
Yes.
guess what? I've literally had every
Yes.
single symptom
Yes.
that I didn't realize
And you
as I was.
know.
There
You
you go.
know. And
There
so
you
that's the thing. That is why, yes, it needs a great PR agent, because the thing is, we are all, and I think I told you this when we were sitting down in that segment, like you are not me, you, us as women. We are not being good girlfriends if we don't talk about it with our girlfriends. If we don't tell them, girl, you better go get those levels checked. Girl, have you thought about because it doesn't have to be like this, girl.
right.
You need to check these things because these are there are definite correlations. And this could all be leading back to the one thing that we're all going through at this time.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I think, that's the first thing that, women need to know is just the definition of menopause is 1 year without bleeding. 1
Yeah.
year without a period, right? Now,
Yes.
what if you've had a hysterectomy and your uterus comes out when you're, let's say, 35 or 40, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Unless your ovaries have come out with your uterus, you're not in menopause yet, but you don't have the bleeding to say,
Right.
I am or I'm not. What do
Right.
you do then? Well, okay, two options. One, the average age of menopause in the United States is 51 to 52 years of age. So you can say, okay, well, if I'm 57, chances are I'm in menopause, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
You mentioned, Tiff, having your hormone levels checked, and that can give you an idea. But
Hmm.
remember, that's generally when you check certain hormones, i.e., most hormones fluctuate hour to hour, day to day, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if they're very clearly in the menopausal range, that can be helpful. If they're in a gray zone and you're having symptoms, you could then connect the dots and say, okay, well, let's say you're 45 and your blood tests, your blood levels are in a gray zone and you're having symptoms. Yeah, you're perimenopausal, right?
Yeah, probably.
But
Yeah.
it's not always definitive, I think is what I'm
Hmm.
trying to say and what women
Yeah.
need to know. It's not like a
Yeah.
throat culture for strep throat where it's either
Right.
positive or negative. It helps to round out the picture, but it's not always definitive. And I would caution women also, don't fall for the doctor or provider that says, I'm going to check your saliva levels or I'm going to check your hormone levels and then I want you to come back every week and I'm going to check them every week. That's for this. That's not that's not because it's going to get you any answer. That's because
Hmm.
they're going to bill for it and charge for it and make money from it. Salivary hormone levels for reproductive hormones have not been borne out in the peer review medical literature to be reliable. So we go by
Mm.
serum or blood hormone levels. Um, and again, it's part of the equation. It's oftentimes not the whole equation.
Right.
But I'm glad you're talking about perimenopause because I have a big, big, big old theory about making menopause easier. And it starts when you're in perimenopause.
Yeah, it starts with a conversation. Like we just have to just
Yeah.
make it a normal
Yeah.
check-in with your good girlfriends. Hey girl,
Hmm.
let's talk about this.
Hmm.
Let's talk about these symptoms and things that we're going through. And especially, as I'm talking with a lot of my patients, as they're talking to me about different types of symptoms, I'm checking that file. I'm saying, how old are you? What are let's just look at the lineup of things that you're experiencing. And I don't want to attribute, oh, well, you're just, anxious or depressed because of a bad breakup or because something's going on at your job. Let's talk about all of the life factors that are going in, and perimenopause could be part of what's feeding a lot of the angst, anxiety, the depression, all of that.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something else. You mentioned all of the factors. I say to my patients a lot, you can have more than one thing going
You
on at a
said that to
time.
me. You said that to me. Do you remember?
I
So,
do remember.
I've talked about this. Yeah, I'm a mess. Okay. You can say it out loud. So listen, I've talked to my listeners, in the first episode of season 1. If you didn't listen to that episode, go back and listen because it's all of my mess. But I talked about I didn't mention you in that episode, and I absolutely should. This was when I was struggling with the autoimmune stuff. I had thoracic myelitis and was having trouble walking. And then I ended up with blood clots, which we're going to get to today too. But I was attributing my difficulty breathing with the thoracic myelitis and just spots in my chest and things like that.
Mm.
And I was thinking, the steroids aren't working. And you said to me then, like, you can have more than one thing at a time. I was thinking, oh, I don't need to go to the doctor. And this is when I had all the blood clots. I'm thinking that I was having some lung issues and the steroids and all of the stuff from the myelitis or whatever. And I'm like, it's just that. It's just that the steroids aren't working. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. And meanwhile, I'm making 4 transatlantic flights in like a week's time, and had blood clots all in my lungs, so many that they couldn't count.
Which could
And
be fatal.
yeah, which would have, by the grace of God, I'm sitting here today for sure. But like you told me, I think when I called you and talked to you about it, you were like, girl, you can have more than one thing at a time. Like, don't don't
If you had
discount your
ignored
symptoms
that
to one
and
thing.
God forbid you would have died, I just want to let you know right now, you
You
would
would have
not
talked at
have
my
one
funeral.
restful
Oh,
moment in your final resting place, because I would come after you. I
oh
would
my
be like, I know you're dead, but I'm gonna.
God. I know you're dead, bitch. But wake your ass up.
Oh
I
my
got
God.
one more thing to say.
Oh my God. You are so lucky. I would have
I
killed you
know.
again.
I know. I know. I know. But thank God you don't have to cuss me out in my on my deathbed. Okay. I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. And so I live to tell the story, and I'm so thankful that I'm able to tell that story. And I tell people that I use those same exact words all the time, that more than one thing can be true at a time. You can
Right.
have more than one diagnosis, and just because you think it's one thing doesn't hurt to go to the doctor and figure out if you're right
Right.
or wrong,
Correct.
you know? So back to the segment that we did together on GMA3, we were talking about menopause and perimenopause and the associated symptoms. You were rattling off some of the things that women
Oh,
experience during that time. And, maybe it's weight gain, fluctuation in weight. Maybe it's irritability. Maybe it's depression, difficulty sleeping, hot flashes, night terrors. It just goes on and on. But the one thing that had me really about to go into a tailspin. It floored me and it vindicated me. ADHD.
oh. I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like,
I
is
know.
it sex? Is it dry
No,
vagina? What?
no. I mean,
Okay.
you mentioned that too, but yes, no, attention deficit. I am someone who has self-diagnosed myself as having ADD, especially within the last few years.
Mhm.
I cannot get my shit together to save my life.
Mhm.
And you saying that, I was like, oh my
So
God.
let me bring this out for you, because I think I have a little of it too, or which I'll tell you, I'll front load it by saying I think for me it helped me in my life and career
Sure.
in the past,
Absolutely.
because I was always wanting to do something different, and I would go
Mhm.
from one thing to another thing to another
Yes.
thing. And
Yes.
as a
Yes.
surgical specialty, OBGYN, you have to be like, you have to do this and then you
Mhm.
have to go there and you have to. So for me at the early in my 20s, 30s and early 40s, I think
Yes.
it actually helped me. But let
Absolutely.
me give you some mini med school on ADHD and
Please.
perimenopause.
I need it.
There
Go.
are estrogen receptors in the brain and
Mhm.
progesterone receptors in the brain. Okay.
Mhm.
They can affect blood flow. They can affect blood flow in the brain is tied to everything: electrical activity, synaptic connections, you name it, it's going on. And it needs two things: the electrical activity and the blood flow, right? The
Mhm.
brain, just
Mhm.
like the heart. If you go back to high school science, and
Mhm.
my favorite as a math and science geek was the Venn diagram. You remember that?
Venn diagram. Yes, I do.
Circles
Mhm.
and where they overlap,
Overlap.
right?
Mhm.
And if you make a circle for perimenopause with all the symptoms you just mentioned, and a
Mhm.
circle for ADHD or ADD, and then where they overlap, there's going to be some similarities, right? So,
Yes.
perimenopause, brain fog, can't concentrate, can't get as much done, need more mental energy to complete a task as you used to. Okay. Those are
Yes.
all symptoms of
Oh, just
perimenopause, right?
all of it.
And
Yes.
guess what? They're also symptoms of ADD. Now,
Mhm.
I learned a lot about ADD because I have a child who's now 25, but I have a child with ADD who was diagnosed when that said child was 12, so 13 years ago. When I was 13, which was
We won't talk about it.
41 years
Yeah.
ago, um, no one had ADD, right?
No.
No one was diagnosed, and certainly girls were not diagnosed.
Right.
But here's the thing. it wasn't new. It's not new now. It existed then. It's just that it wasn't common. It wasn't diagnosed. It wasn't kind of mainstream. It wasn't treated as widespread and as readily as it's treated now with certain prescription medications. So now fast forward, because as I said, I'm 54. So if you talk about 40 years ago, right? There's
Right.
40 years of women who could have ADD who were never diagnosed because they're now in their 40s or 50s, and it wasn't done then when they were teenagers. And so they've spent their entire lives compensating for that ADD, right? Maybe with better success, some versus others, maybe with more effort, some versus others, but they have been compensating for it their whole life.
Yes, their whole
Now
life.
you get them to the perimenopause stage, which could be 40, 45, 49, 50, whatever, right? That stage of about roughly 10 years before the official, you've crossed the finish line into menopause. And now they have less estrogen and progesterone circulating through their entire body, including their brain. And now their compensation for that ADD that was never diagnosed or treated, now it's really kind of the deck is stacked against them. And now they have not one, but two. You have the overlap in that Venn diagram
Yes.
of those two circles. And those are the women who are like, WTF? Like, what is happening here? Right. And I'm going to tell you that that's where that self-talk and that inner dialogue, or the dialogue that women have with their gynecologist or their primary care doctor or their PA or nurse practitioner, that's where it basically is like a fork in the road. It either goes well and it helps the woman, or it goes horribly wrong and it leaves the woman thinking, there's something wrong with me. What the hell is happening? I don't know how I'm going to cope or get through this. And it just snowballs from there.
Yeah. I mean, since you've already pinned my life story, can you just, I mean, when can we go to the publisher? Because you just spoke my whole life. No, that's exactly how I've been feeling for, I would say a couple of years, but definitely within the last year or so, where I'm like, I really, like, I'm saying to myself, I've got to get my shit together, but at the same time, just not being able to get my shit together. And on the outside, because I am a functioning person at a high level, I've always functioned at a very high level. My normal level of functioning, or me not functioning at that optimal level that I like to, it seems good enough. It seems good enough on the outside. I know though, this is not, I can't, my brain is all over the place. I can't think clearly. Like, as soon as I will have a vision of something that I need to do, right? I'll open my computer, and the moment I open my computer, it's gone. I'm like, what was I getting ready to do? I don't
Listen,
know what this is.
but I have to tell you, this is where as I write my magazine, as I, am preparing to launch a whole digital platform, by the way, coming this spring, you'll be the first to know, that's really going to be a resource and a community and a source of content and education for women, for their weight and nutrition and menopause and hormonal issues. Tiff, I have said to myself the exact same things. And it started when I was like 48, right? I didn't officially
I'm
have
47. This is it.
That's when it started. And I didn't officially cross that menopause finish line until I was 52 and a half. I started hormones, by the way, at 51 and a half, even before I was officially in menopause. But I was saying to myself, what is happening to me? And I thought it was the stress of Rob's death. My children's father and my ex-husband died by suicide in 2017. You knew him. I thought maybe I just,
which would have been legit,
okay,
right?
right. And
That would have been a
guess what? And I'm
legitimate
going to say
reason.
the same thing to myself that I said to you. Yes, and yes, you can have more than one thing going on. And I kept on, and then the pandemic comes, and I'm like, is this because of the pandemic? Like, why?
Yeah.
What? I used to be so efficient. Why does my
Yes.
to-do list is so long now? Is this because of COVID? Is this because of
Yes.
menopause? Is this because of, then I met the love of my life, Tom, and I got married a little over a year ago. I was fortunate enough
Yes.
that you and your
Yes.
handsome husband, Jason, were at my wedding. And now I say to myself, is this because I'm in love? Why I can't concentrate? And no, it's because I'm in menopause. And I probably had mild ADD before then.
Right.
So this is so common.
We need to scream this from the rooftops because I think that people just don't understand that this is what that Venn diagram is what's going on here. We are thinking we are losing our minds. We are thinking that
Yeah.
I was talking to a girlfriend of mine, both two girlfriends of mine. They're both psychotherapists, and I was telling them, oh God, I feel because at the point when I was really struggling with it in October, I was like, I think I feel like I'm struggling with anxiety for one.
Oh, I had that too.
Yeah. Check that one off too. Yep. Not alone. But I was like, I don't know what's going on with me. Give me a referral to a psychiatrist or somebody because I have to get this. I cannot live like this. It is holding me hostage. And then somewhere in the conversation, and they're both therapist friends of mine, and so they were like, be gentle with yourself, as as we do as therapists, and what's going on, what can we help you with, all of that, those things. And I was like, girl, I really think that it has something to do with my hormones and that I'm perimenopausal. And they were like, oh girl, of course it does. What are you saying? Oh, you're fine. Like as soon as I said that, they were like, oh yeah, that's exactly what this is.
Yep.
We have to be able to have these conversations. You and I have to have the conversations, but we also have to spread this knowledge, disperse it to other folks, not just people that are our age, but also those that are younger that are coming up because they haven't had these conversations. They don't know that this is what's up.
That's
This is
right.
what's going to happen.
That's correct.
And girl, there are things that you can do to help yourself out so that you don't have to live as long as we live with those symptoms.
Yep.
And then feel like, okay, in hindsight, oh, now I recognize what that was. I want to recognize what it is while I'm going through it so that I can get through it a lot quicker.
That's right.
And enjoy my life.
Yep. 100%. And so I think that, look, if I were speaking, that question, what would you say to your 40-year-old self or your 30-year-old self or whatever? If I were speaking to my 35-year-old self, and just imagine the magnitude of this comment, because I am a board certified gynecologist.
That part. Jen,
okay?
You know better.
I would say to my 35-year-old self, be on the lookout for any of these 20 some odd symptoms, head to toe, and don't be surprised when you get them. If anything, you should be surprised if you don't get them.
Right.
Assume you will get them. Prepare for them. Because I always say, women are so damn strong. We are tough as nails. We can handle anything as long as we know what's coming.
We know it's coming.
So when I was still delivering babies, I would say to women, this is going to hurt. Okay? This is going to hurt like a mofo.
Yeah.
Just stay with me. If you want an epidural, you want pain medication, you just say the word or make some kind of safe word, hand signal. But as long as we know what's coming, we can handle it. I didn't even know.
But you did know. You knew intellectually. Yeah, but intellectually, you had the information. You had all the information. And I know you know everything, right? You had the information. But for whatever reason, we don't apply it to ourselves.
That's right. Yep, correct.
What kind of craziness is that?
Yeah. So I think that, it's about whatever you want your mantra to be as your 35-year-old or 40-year-old self, if you're listening to this, to get yourself prepared.
Yeah.
Think of it as if you are a mother and you've had a baby and you've gone through pregnancy, you can say to yourself, this is the next chapter and
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
prepare myself for it.
Yeah.
I am going to prepare myself for this like I prepared myself for pregnancy. And, maybe I'll have an easy time, maybe I'll have a more challenging time, but I am going to prepare myself for it. And the
Hmm.
best way to have a good menopause is to have a good perimenopause.
Yes. So let's talk about how we can do that. So for my I know there are lots of different things that we can do, hormone replacement therapy being one of them. Creams, injections, pellets. Let's get a good overview. And again, I'll go back to what I said when we first started. This is a great conversation that we are having here today, but ultimately we don't know your health concerns, your goals and all of those things. So this conversation, I just need you to put pins where you can put pins and discuss all of this stuff with your physician who knows your medical history so that you can get targeted and unique treatment that is specific to your unique concerns. All right. So what options are there out there?
For
What options are
perimenopause?
out there for us?
For
Yes.
perimenopause? Well,
Yes.
first of all, let's start with the big one, which is hormonal, right? There's a saying in
Yes.
gynecology, like treats like. That's a saying in a
Mhm.
lot of specialties of medicine, which
Mhm.
means,
Mhm.
if it's a hormonal problem, don't have surgery, right? That's for a
Mm.
structural problem or an anatomical problem. So if you are having something that has caused by low or irregular or unstable or out of balance, however you want to describe it, hormone levels, the first and most obvious way to treat it is with some kind of hormonal therapy. Now, as you just said, and I say this also, I say this on
Mhm.
the air to millions of people, I say this one on one to real patients and real women, girlfriends, you name it. There are more options than ever. It is not
Mhm.
one size fits all. There are so many myths and misconceptions out there that have been circulating and being propagated for the last 20 years, often without medical or scientific basis. We've heard that before. Hello.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so I will tell you that when it comes to hormone replacement therapy, HRT, it's also known as MHT, menopause hormone therapy, that there are a slew of different options out there. There are pills, there are creams, there are, patches, there are pellets, which I personally don't believe in and use. I think they're more of a pain in the neck than helpful, but there are a
Mhm.
lot of different ways you can get hormone replacement therapy. Um,
Mhm.
but it's not candy. It does come with some side effects and some risks. I mentioned before, I've been taking hormone replacement therapy for about 3.5 years now. I love it. I felt a million times better almost within
Mhm.
2 days. That's how quickly
Mhm.
hormone replacement therapy can work.
Mhm.
Um, and the myth or misconception that it causes breast cancer, it has been based on a 2002 flawed study based on its methodology. And even cancer specialists who have reviewed that data have come out and say, no, that is not the
Mhm.
case. Remember, Brett, there's a zillion different types of cancer. Breast cancer is one of them. It's not the most common cancer killer of women, by the way, not even close. Lung cancer is.
Mm.
And it has to be right for you. And
Yeah.
it's a good option. And it can be a safe and effective option. Then there's non-hormonal prescription medication.
Mm.
And there are a bunch of different medications. One new FDA approved medication that just came out in the last year that doesn't work hormonally, that is really good for hot flashes. But remember that when you go to the non hormonal category, that's going to be less effective at treating the whole head to toe perimenopausal symptom list because the cause of all those symptoms is low estrogen.
Is yeah. Yeah.
So, and then there's the what I call the option or alternative column, the third column, which are the kind of natural or supplemental things that a lot of women like because rightly or wrongly so, they're perceived as safer, which again may have some truth to it, may not. Just eating a plant-based diet, a half a cup a day of soybeans, believe it or not, was
Mm.
shown in one recent study in the last couple of years to reduce the severity of hot flashes by 88%. That's
Oh, wow.
meaningful, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there are other natural products. One of them is called Relizin, which women can look
Mm.
up online, Relizen. I have nothing to do with
Okay.
that company, by the way, but I've been recommending it to women and patients for about 10 years. It's cytosolic bee pollen extract,
Mm.
and it does not stimulate the breast or the uterus, so it doesn't work hormonally. But it's about effective in about 65% of women in helping their sleep
Wow.
and hot flashes. But if you're talking about, let's say, musculoskeletal pain or vaginal dryness or change in your hair or skin, which almost every woman
Mm-hmm.
has, other things to treat those symptoms may do a little, but none of them will do as much as estrogen because that is, in fact, the root cause of that
Right.
symptom. So the
Right.
bottom line is there are more options than ever for women to
Yeah.
choose from.
So for someone like me who can't take estrogen
Right.
because of my history with blood clots, what would you recommend for me, because you're not my doctor technically. Um but offline you can tell me,
Unofficially.
but yes. But what would you recommend for me, and then I'll tell you what I'm doing.
Okay. So first of all, when I got my degree in nutrition, because doctors don't learn anything about nutrition, I really, really believe in this concept that food can be our medicine, can also be our
Mhm.
poison, right? So for someone
Mhm.
like you, I would definitely go to a largely plant-based diet. It doesn't mean never eat meat, because I know you like your Southern barbecue.
I do.
It
I like
does,
barbecue, but I like fish, I like
yeah,
chicken,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
like
It
it
doesn't mean
all.
never eat that, but it means as much as you can plant-based. And that means things like soy, tofu,
Mhm.
lentils, beans, non-dairy, because dairy is a big source of inflammation. And all those things can help kind of move the needle a little bit. And then, by the way, if you do that the
Yeah.
majority of the time, and let's say one time a week you have barbecue or you have your, steak or whatever, fine. That's certainly not going to undo
Right.
anything, right?
Yeah, because for me, it's the estrogen, but it's also the inflammation because
Mhm.
of the autoimmune stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm picking up what you're laying down. I don't like it,
You
but it's
can
kind of like when your dog poops,
Right.
you got to pick it up. You don't want to. Nobody wants to do that, but we
That's it.
kind of got to.
And
I got
and
you. I got
it takes time to retrain your taste buds. It does. I talk about
you.
that a
Yeah.
lot in this issue of my magazine, by the way.
There we go. There we go.
Because I have a 5-day eating plan that we actually
Mhm.
put some GMA3 viewers on, and they not only feel a lot better, but they've lost
Mhm.
5 to 10 pounds in a month. So it's easy to do, and it's just 5 days a week. So
Okay.
that's something that over
I feel.
time you can get there. You can.
Why does this feel like we're going back in time to the
Yeah,
revolution?
I know.
It feels like we're going all the way back there.
So I think I it does.
Yeah.
So I think that food is the first place that I always, always recommend that women
Okay.
start. Always, okay? And
Okay.
then you can try again, normally what I recommend if you look at those categories of food, the complementary stuff, the non-hormonal prescription medication, and then hormonal, you,
Mhm.
like my daughter Chloe, can't take estrogen. Can't, right?
Yes.
Um, so for you, the options would then be the other three columns. The food is an easy one, right? Because there's no risk to
Mhm.
that. And you
Right.
don't have to do it 100% of the time. You could just do it most of the time. And then when you talk about the non-hormonal prescription medications, It depends what your symptom, if your symptom is hot flashes and sleep disturbance, there are two medications now that I think are kind of getting the most attention in the field of women's health and gynecology. One is the name Effexor, that's the brand name.
Hmm.
And that in higher doses, as you know, is an antidepressant, but in lower
Okay.
doses, it's incredibly effective for hot flashes.
Wow.
Incredibly effective. Okay. It's
Oh,
been used for over 20 years in gynecology, right? And it's inexpensive. You do have to kind of get used to it because some people are more sensitive to the side effects than others, but
yeah.
that's an option. And then there's a new FDA approved medication called Veoza that works
Hmm.
in the brain and can improve hot flashes and sleep in women. Insurance may or may not cover it, and it's very expensive. It's about
Hmm.
$500 a month. But those are the two kind of prescription mainstay. Or let's say you're a woman who's just having, brain fog, and that's really
Yes.
your only perimenopause and menopausal symptom.
Hmm.
You could consult with a psychiatrist and say, you know what? I do feel like I had undiagnosed ADD most of my life. And now that I'm perimenopausal or menopause, it's even worse. I can't or don't want to take hormones. What do you think about a prescription focused stimulant medication like an Adderall
Yeah.
or a Vyvanse or a Focalin? And maybe that's enough for you. So it really
Yeah.
depends on what your symptom is
Yeah.
and what your profile is and what you want, how bad your
Yeah.
symptoms are,
Yeah.
and you as an individual. That's why this is
Yeah.
not robotic cookie cutter.
Right. And I love that. I actually love that we all don't necessarily have the exact same symptoms. And we can, I love what you just said about just making sure that we understand, like, is it something I can manage? Is it something I can deal with? Or is it something that I need a little bit of
Right.
help with? Because some of the symptoms, like, don't bother me. I'm not a hot flashes, God, knock on wood, not a hot flashes, sweaty mess, night sweats, can't sleep, that kind of thing. My problem was extreme fatigue, like wanting to sleep all the time, just always being tired, the brain fog, not being able to get anything done because I couldn't focus, getting up in the morning, getting Sky off to school, but then like being so exhausted still, just never getting adequate rest. And of course, when you don't get adequate rest, you can't do anything.
No.
So just feeling like I was always on this hamster wheel and never getting caught up. And so I did finally, I had already talked to my doctor about it before I had my big meltdown in October. Um, but so we started, and one thing that you haven't said, and I want to know what you think about, because she knows my history, obviously can't take estrogen, but she did recommend testosterone for me.
How do you feel on it so far?
Oh my gosh. It has been amazing.
Really?
And I know you don't like pellets, and I want you to talk about why. I think I know why,
Hmm.
but I want you to talk about why, because I think it's an important conversation to have, whether women have them or not, or are thinking about them or not. I think sometimes we hear so much of the pro, and we don't realize that there could be cons. And so I think it's interesting that you said, well, what has experience been like for you? Because it's different for
Sure.
everybody. So let's talk. Pellets are something that I've heard about for years and never understood what it actually was.
Hmm.
So tell me about pellets, what you like, what you don't like, why you prefer to go an alternative route. And yeah,
Okay,
I
so
get it.
pellets basically look like a grain of rice
Hmm.
that get inserted, implanted subdermally right under the surface of the skin. And then they
Hmm.
release their hormone slowly and steadily over a prolonged period of time. Usually that's
Hmm.
several months.
Hmm.
Now, here's why I personally don't recommend them. In the last, how long have I been in practice? Almost 20 years, 19 years. I have never had one patient, and I've had thousands of women as patients, obviously, who has had pellets who's been happy with them. And in fact, I've had the opposite experience where I've had women get pellets and then come to me because they can't stand the side effects and they cannot be removed, right? Because they start to disintegrate or they're too small. You can't. So you have to
Yeah.
wait
Gotta
until
wait it out.
that stuff is fully deployed. You just have to wait it out, which is not the case for any other route of administration. Creams, patches, pills, they are out of your system within days to, in some cases, even less, the second you stop applying it, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't do that with a pellet. So if you have a bad side effect, and ironically, the worst patients I've seen have had bad side effects to testosterone pellets because they start getting acne, they start getting body hair, they start getting voice deepening. And I'm like, yeah, this is what happens when you're on too high a dose of testosterone. And they go, well, I want to stop it. And I say, you can't. You have to
Yeah.
wait a long time till these,
Yeah.
all of the hormone has deployed
It's
and
out of
is
your
out of
system.
your
Yeah.
system.
Yeah. It has to quit you. You can't quit it.
That is correct.
Yes.
Now, what are the benefits? Anything that you don't swallow. So again, this would be pellet, cream, patch, has a slightly safer profile in that it avoids what we call first pass liver metabolism. So that, through a very long and complicated pathway, can slightly lower some of the clotting factors that get activated
Yeah.
in that hepatic or liver metabolism. But again, you could go the cream or even get a compounded patch route if you really want the testosterone and not go the pellet route. But again, that's just my clinical experience in 19 years of being a practicing gynecologist.
And bad bitch.
And
I get it.
and I think that and I think that it's just something that first the decision making tree should be, do I want to take testosterone, yes or no, or estrogen or progestin?
Yes.
By the way, if you have a uterus, you have to take progesterone with estrogen. Have to, or you're risking uterine cancer. If you don't have a uterus, if you've had a hysterectomy, then you can take estrogen alone. But a lot of women's perimenopausal symptoms are caused by low progesterone also. So most are caused by low estrogen. And then I'll get to testosterone in a second, but some are also caused by low progesterone. Testosterone, fun fact, also plummets, not so fun actually, as we get perimenopausal and menopausal, because half of our testosterone as women are made in the ovaries. So your doctor isn't wrong to say, well, you can't take estrogen, but you can take some testosterone. So let me give you some of that, since that's going down too, and see how you feel. I would just say, if we were in a vacuum and I was the only doctor, let's not go the pellet route, because if you don't like it, you're stuck with it until it gets out of your system.
Yeah. So for me, I'll tell you what I noticed. I would say that part of my anxiety is situational, obviously, right? So there were some things that were going on in my life that were making me incredibly anxious, and that was situational, and it was going to even itself out over time. But I also know that I know my body, and I know how I experience things, and I know anxiety when it shows up at the door. So I wanted to definitely address that. The mental clarity or lack thereof was there. The fogginess, the severe fatigue, sleeping all the time, all of those things. And when I talked to my doctor about it, and we had been talking about this for a good, I would say 6 months, almost a year. And we circled back, and she said, let's think about just a little bit of testosterone to see how you do. And that's what we did. And we did do the pellets. And I was like, and right after I got the pellets is when I heard you say somewhere, I don't know where I heard you say this, but you don't like, and I'm like, God damn it. Now she knew. You didn't know that I was getting
No,
because if you did, you would have told me.
of course.
But I'm like, telepathically, you should have known.
So how did you feel?
So
Tell me the
yeah,
good things that you felt.
right now I'll tell you because I've been on them for it's almost 2 months. I'm going on 2 months. I feel I have so much more energy, so much more energy. That feeling of, okay, I get up, I get my kid out of the door. I would want to go like literally crawl back in bed. And sometimes I would go
Mm.
back to bed and just bring my computer into my bed and I will just work from bed, like, but really go to take another nap because I wasn't ready to get up. That's gone. I get so much more done. I still feel like I'm kind of bouncing a little bit, but I actually do get more done. I'm more focused. I'm not as focused as I want to be, but more focused. I'm getting more done. I have more motivation. Um,
Any change in
the
your
big,
weight or your body?
no, not yet. Haven't had any issues with like acne. I was already on
Mhm.
spironolactone for acne symptoms. So skin has been fairly good. No hair in weird places yet.
Okay.
The biggest and most noticeable change though has been sexual desire.
Up?
Up, way up. Like to the point where poor Jason, honey. I feel bad for the man.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a skeptical
So,
person by
increase
nature.
in desire, but what about orgasm? Any notice in that, or that's
Honey, she's never had a
oh,
problem with that. However, however, I mean, easy,
yeah.
easy. Like he could just blow on it, honey, and I'm there. Okay.
Wow.
It's been That's what I said. So, I haven't had the only thing, and I actually talked to the nurse the other day and I said, on the next injection, if we continue on this pathway and continue to feel like this, we can dial it back a little bit because I'm about to wear his ass out.
Next guest
I'm
will
serious.
be Jason.
I know. He is about sick of me. He's like, listen, girl, give me a minute to catch my breath.
Wow. That is
It's a lot.
amazing.
It's a lot.
So listen,
And I'm
I
thankful
will
for
just
it.
say,
Yeah.
because this is important, and I want to make sure
Yes.
that before we
Please.
go, we have the
Yes.
safe things.
Yes.
Um,
Please.
is testosterone can increase your lipid profile, so your bad
Mhm.
cholesterol can go up, your
Girl,
triglycerides
nobody
can
needs
go
that.
up, okay?
Nobody needs
And it
that.
can increase your risk of breast cancer also.
Ooh. Okay.
So
Mm-mm.
this does not mean that I wouldn't give it to a woman, and that does not mean that I think you should discontinue it because you've been so far, you feel really good on it. But it just means awareness. It just means
Yes.
that, so, an example is, okay, if you're taking something that you know can increase your bad cholesterol, that should even be more motivation an impetus to go more plant-based because you want
Plant-based.
to
Yeah.
counteract anything that so that way, pardon the pun, you get to
Yeah.
have your cake and eat it too. But any provider who gives
Yes.
a woman testosterone should be explaining that it can increase your lipid profile. That's part of the reason why men have more heart attacks than women. And it can increase your risk of breast cancer. It doesn't mean if you
Okay.
get breast cancer that the testosterone caused it. This just means, oh, okay, I'm aware. I accept that
Yes.
risk. And
Mhm.
guess what? If I'm going to take the testosterone, I'm going to make sure that I'm on time with my mammograms and my ultrasounds and all of that so that you're just balanced. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. Yeah. No, I do. Thank you, and I love you for that. And I think our listeners love you for that as well because you have given us so much perspective, so much insight,
Uh,
and so much knowledge. I can't thank you. You guys see why I keep this woman on speed dial, Dr. Jen. Thank you so
I
much for
love
being
you.
here.
I love you.
I love you
And
too.
listen, I will your viewers and listeners will see my comments on your Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. J Ashton.
Yes.
And I will, also post links and all that kind of stuff. I hope you all
Yes.
like the magazine. I hope you all like Dr. Tiffany Davis Henry's
Yes.
column as a core expert in the
Yes.
magazine. And I can't wait till we do this again.
Yes, I can't wait till we do it again either. I'm going to put all of your information, your contacts, your Instagram handles, the magazine links, the book links, everything. I'm going to put it in the show notes so everyone will have easy access. They can go on there and get in where they fit in, get all of the things.
Okay.
I may even throw up a picture or two in post, just a retrospective, if
I'll
you
send you
will,
some of
of
my good ones too. I have some great pics of us.
I love that. I love that. We'll link all of the stuff below.
Good.
Thank you so much for being here, Jen. And thank you guys as well for joining us today. This wouldn't be this without you. And so please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We're building a beautiful community of folks who are really serious about enhancing their relationships and taking much better care of themselves. And if that's you, you definitely don't want to miss an episode and you definitely have to be here. So go ahead and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you later. Ciao. Thank you, Jen.
You.